Hi, everybody. Good morning. We're glad to have you with us. We'll have some people, I'm sure, coming in as we run over from worship. But we're glad to have a great number of the team from Children's Hospital with us to talk about child advocacy and protection services as we get started. And Connie Click, who's a member of our congregation, she gets a little temple talk this morning, kind of give us a little introduction, but we'll turn over to the team from Children's as they share a little bit more. We're glad to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
So my name is David Whelan, and I'm the Vice President for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin Community Service Child Wellbeing Programs, which includes our child advocacy, child protection work. But I want to talk more broadly about what we do at Children's Hospital. And we have Sarah, Lona, and Connie who are also going to speak a bit. So I'm just going to set the stage and then turn it over to them. Children's Hospital has a vision that Wisconsin should have the healthiest children in the nation. And so a part of that vision means that we have to address the needs of the most vulnerable populations in the state and address their health needs through a variety of programs. And so I want you to think about the work we do raising children and providing programs to children as kind of a continuum. And so where it starts for Children's Hospital is really with our pediatric clinics, our pediatricians. And we know that kids get, when they have a medical home and they get immunized and they get regular child checks, that is prevention work, because the doctor is working with the family to ensure the child is developing in a way that's healthy and going to lead to kind of good health and good outcomes. The other programs that we have that are like that are for families that are more socially isolated. And my family's a part of a church community, and this is a beautiful facility, by the way. Thank you for having us here. Church communities also create a protective net, but not all families have that. And so what Children's Hospital does in our community services side, we have some what we call family preservation and support programs. And those can be like family resource centers, which are drop-in centers where families can come and meet other families and bring their kids and drop-in playtimes. They can get free parenting education in a variety of ways. We also do specialized parenting programs like Triple P parenting, evidence-based parent training programs. The kind of thing that my mother-in-law did when we had our first child, and she moved into the house for a while and made sure we knew what we were doing. Not all families have that, and so we try to fill that gap. For families that are really at risk, we partner with public health departments across the state and do home visitation programs. And these are programs where a worker actually connects with the family and voluntarily engages them in a program where the worker goes to the home, helps them set up the home in a way that is kind of safe for the child and developmentally enriching for the child, and then works to ensure they understand the importance of having a medical home, accessing other resources in the community like WIC and Early Head Start or other programs that might help them and raise that child. And so these are all kind of the foundational structures that communities have to meet the needs of kids and families. And most of the time they work. Children's Hospital serves thousands upon thousands of families that never touch the child welfare system. But ultimately, what I'm here to talk to you about today is that when all those things fail, kids get exposed to abuse and neglect. Our child advocacy and protection centers do a lot of work at the very front end of that, doing forensic interviewing to make sure that we understand the nature of an allegation that's come to the attention of the child welfare system or legal system, and investigate whether that child truly has been harmed or is at risk of being harmed. When that is true, then Children's Hospital has a number of programs that we use to try to help those families. We have community response programs where we try to support families who don't need to be separated, where the kid can remain in the house. And we use family teaming models to try to build supports to make sure that child remains safe in the home. We have an intensive in-home program that does the same thing. But ultimately, in Milwaukee County, about 2,000 kids are living outside of their birth family in foster care. Children's Hospital has a contract with the state of Wisconsin to case manage half of those kids, along with a partner organization called St. Anne. They do the other half. So we do ongoing case management for 1,000 kids who are in foster care. The goal for us is to see the child and the child's family as a client. And the reason for that is that most often the kids that are in foster care are able to be returned back to their parents' home, or if they're not able to be returned to their parents' home, they're able to be placed with a fit and willing relative who will maintain all of their family connections. So what we want to do is ensure that we're working not only with that child, but with that parent who is ultimately going to be in that child's life a lot longer than we are. So what you're going to be hearing about is some of the work that we do on trying to recruit foster parents to help us partner with the whole family, not just the child, to address the needs of the family and the child, and also other volunteer opportunities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Connie.
Thanks, David. Our Child Advocacy and Protection Services program, which I'm the director, is the largest hospital-based child advocacy network in the country. And actually there's a better map back there. I put the wrong map on my junk drive. But we are located we have 7 child advocacy centers across the state. I'm not sure why, just take a minute. 7 child advocacy centers across the state. We have 3 medical satellite offices, as well as our hospital-based program where our pediatricians and our nurse practitioners see children who are abused and neglected as they enter into our emergency department. So as you can see, these are our locations. We also have the medical satellite offices in Ozaukee, Waukesha, and Brown counties. We serve about 7,000 children annually across the state. Last year was actually a little over 8,000 kids. Before I further describe our program though, I think I'd like to back up and talk a little bit about what a child advocacy center is. A child advocacy center is a spot where kids can safely come to and talk about abuse and neglect. It is a place where we, our child advocacy centers, are coordinating the response to child protective services or a law enforcement investigation. So we see kids who have been physically abused, sexually abused, neglected, that they are at risk of violence, so that witness violence as well, and also kids that are sex trafficked. So as you can see on my left, it would be without CACs. It's your right. No, it's your left as well. Without CACs, it was really an uncoordinated mess. So families would try to figure out where to get services from and just have to, by the luck of the draw or whatever it is, be able to be connected to the correct people. Lots of times they just gave up. They said, forget it. It's not worth us trying to get help for our kid because my child has had to tell their story 14 times and no one is helping us. So in the mid-'80s, a district attorney in Alabama named Bud Kramer decided enough was enough. He was losing prosecutions because evidence was being lost or families dropped out of the system, and he formed the first Child Advocacy Center. And as you can see, when you look at this with a Child Advocacy Center, kids and families are in the center. And then around that, we wrap the investigative process, healing, therapy, advocacy. We wrap around the family. They don't have to go from place to place. We also, if people have questions anywhere along the line, you do not have to wait until the end, we've decided. So is there a way to make this bigger?
There's the plus one.
Sorry. It's gonna be really easy, isn't it? Technology is not always my friend.
No.
Oh, right here, yeah. So here's really how the CAC model works. We receive referrals from Child Protective Services, law enforcement, or the district attorney's office. If you're a citizen in the community or a parent, you cannot refer to us directly because our role is to gather evidence and information for that investigative process. Each CPS and Child Protective Services and law enforcement, each has their own role and responsibility. Law enforcement is public safety. Child Protective Services is child safety. So sometimes those two purposes didn't always come together. But again, with child advocacy centers, they have a place to coordinate those services for them. So when a child is brought to a child advocacy center, a joint investigation begins. Kids get forensic interviews that are videotaped so they do not have to tell their story over and over, and oftentimes do not have to testify in court. All of our CACs have some form of, for children, have some form of medical services, either on-site or available as well, to document injuries, provide head-to-toe examinations, and really to help, even if there's not an injury on the child, just to help kids feel like their bodies are okay and everything is all right with them. We also provide advocacy to non-offending caregivers, and then just last year we started providing advocacy to youth as well. What we realized is they probably had a lot to say, and they probably had a lot of needs, but they didn't want to say it in front of their parents or their foster parent. So we've really been able to do some advocacy for youth in a way that we had not done in the past. And as a really quick example, I just told this story at our directors meeting last week. There's a young woman that we're working with who's 13 years old and had been sexually abused by her father for over a number of years. Mom has divorced him, and this young woman wants to change her last name to her mom's maiden name. She wants her family to line up because she doesn't want to carry his name with her forever, right? Well, little did we know that that's way easier to do if you're an adult than you're a child. But through some collaboration with the state of Wisconsin, through the Department of Justice, and some Victims of Crime Act dollars, some brainstorming on the part of my advocate, my CAC manager, me, as well as the courts, they were able to waive some fees, and through this Victims of Crime Act dollars, we're going to be able to pay for actually getting her name changed and doing some things like that. That would not have happened had we not had youth advocacy. That would not have happened unless we would have had youth advocacy. That child's needs really would have went unnoticed. And so we're actually really excited that while the story is sad, it is going to have a very happy ending, that she's going to be able to have a fresh start and for all of her life now be in a very different place, and that will set her on the road to healing. So we coordinate all of these kind of things for Child Protective Services and law enforcement. They make the ultimate decision on what to do on the case. We provide them written as well as video and photograph information. And cases are presented then to the district attorney. Again, advocates continue to work with the family, and then CPS makes decisions whether children can remain safely in their home as well. I'm particularly proud of our program, not only because we're the largest in the nation, but we have really a group of committed individuals. I have over 60 staff that I supervise, and we have the largest number of board-certified child abuse pediatricians in the country, and our nurse practitioners stand up to, I would put them up against anyone, as well as our forensic interviewers and our advocates. All are interested, are doing trauma-sensitive and evidence-based interventions that really help kids on that path to healing. But don't take it from me. I have a video to show you. get the volume for you. This is Dr. Sheets. She's one of our board certified child abuse pediatricians, and she leads our medical program. She's my partner in crime, we like to say, Starsky and Hutch, Cagney and Lacey, whatever you want to. It's only a 3-minute video, so.
What is your background?
I actually grew up in the child welfare system, so I started out as a child protective services worker in a small county in the central part of the state, Green Lake County. From there, I became a supervisor of services in Rock County. And then I worked in state government for a lot of years, writing child welfare policy, doing training, reviewing work. And then about almost 6 years ago, I was offered a job up in the Fox Valley to manage their child advocacy center. And I tell people all the time, found my calling. This program is I've worked in some form of child welfare, child protective services my entire career, but this is really what it was meant for me to be. I thought I'd actually retire up in the Fox Valley. I'm from that part of the state. And David's predecessor, Amy, who you'll see in the video, as well as Dr. Sheets, had a very different idea and said, hey, you should apply for this open director job. And here we are in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. Proud members of St. Matt's. Yeah, got to do a shout out for Pastor Matt.
I'll shout out for you, Con.
Yeah. So, and I think most of us come from, on David's team, come from a child welfare or child and family counseling background. While you're working on that, I would also say, I referenced the Victims of Crime Act dollars earlier today. They're federal dollars that actually come through the state. And we've been able to add services thanks to our partnership with the Department of Justice. Every one of our CACs now has advocates. Our forensic interviews are free. We don't charge for them, and so we're able to offset those costs. It has been, again, a great partnership to be able to expand services. And there's a competitive process coming up in early next year that we'll be looking to do even more so that we're serving kids and families. Also out of generosity, because as you could guess, we're not a money-making, we'll just never we'll always lose money working in this area. Children's Hospital has graciously supported us, and we've been able to add a nurse practitioner to really help alleviate the burden of all the kids and families we've been seeing in the southeast part of the state. And now we are really seeing an uptick in the Fox Valley area. And so David just recently got a request from me for another nurse practitioner up in that part of the state. I'll try it one more time.
So do all of the services come out of Children's Hospital, or do you ever contract out with any other places?
Yeah.
Or?
So for the child advocacy program, the bulk of our services, the employees are Children's Hospital employees. In Eau Claire, we have a unique relationship with Mayo Clinic where a pediatrician comes in and provides the medical services. And at our Wausau CAC, we work with the local Marshfield Clinic to provide the medical services. And then in Fox Valley, our mental health services are provided by an organization called Catalpa Mental Health. Okay, we're just going to have to put their listening ears on.
Yep.
There you go. That's wise. Can you hear it a little better?
Most of us know a child somewhere in our lives. Some of us have children. And if a child that you knew was touched by some type of maltreatment, be it a neglect or sexual abuse or physical abuse, wouldn't you want that child to get the absolute best care and the most evidence-informed interventions to ensure that that child has a healthy outcome and a happy life? And I think everyone would say yes to that.
This is so much better than this.
Even though we may not touch the lives of many people who are top-notch program, and that's what we've got. We want to think about how to best support that child and their caregiver from the time they walk in the door until the time that they leave. It's overwhelming to have to go and meet with the doctor and then go to the DA's office and then go down to the police station when you're already dealing with whatever crisis has happened. So having this resource in the community to really help support the children and families at kind of their toughest time is really invaluable. Actually takes care of more kids outside of the walls of the hospital than within. We have the most extensive network of hospital-based child advocacy centers than anyone else in the nation. We have 7 child advocacy centers around the state. We have 2 additional medical satellite offices. HCAC really is a reflection of their community. So what's true in Milwaukee is maybe not always true in Walworth. What is common across all sites is that we operate in a multidisciplinary, collaborative fashion. We all have different roles. We have different expertise. We have different information to share. And when we work together and communicate effectively, that improves the services that we can provide to the youth and to their families to help them recover from the trauma that they've experienced.
So now I have to figure out how to turn this mic on. There. So I always think I should just probably show that, right? It's a great overview of it all. But what I would want to say to all of you is what's the future, to talk about the future of child advocacy centers and the future of our program. The clips that you saw at the end that I'm in, I am co-located at the Sojourner Family Peace Center. And it is a variety of agencies that are co-located and are housed together to serve families impacted by violence. The lead agency is Sojourner, which, as many of you know, is the lead domestic violence agency in Milwaukee County. But really, we are committed to collaborating together and to figure out ways to eventually stop and prevent child abuse. So the fact that we can be co-located allows us to provide services to families in a way that we just haven't been able to in the past. When I turn it over to Lona and Sarah, I'm going to pass out a handout for you that shows actually on the back the Family Peace Center and tells a story about how we were able to successfully help a family just because this dad was linked to an advocate at the Family Peace Center. Does anyone have any other questions for me? People ask us how we do this work because it can be sad and kind of depressing. It's also really, really rewarding. I was telling someone the other day, a little girl, I was playing in the waiting area with a little girl. I usually do that when I don't want to do an assignment. And so playing in the area, when she left, she said to me, the next time I come back, we'll play Candyland. In my head, I'm thinking, you're never coming back, right? But what I'm glad about is that it was that positive an experience for her, that her perception wasn't she was scared to be there. So thank you. Ladies?
Thank you, Connie. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Sargent, and I am a foster parent recruitment specialist. Hold on.
It will. It's just slow.
Maybe. Perfect. Awesome. I am a foster parent recruitment specialist with Children's Hospital Community Services. Kind of like what it said in the video and what Connie was talking about, we have several different locations throughout the state of Wisconsin, one of those being our Community Services building on South 76th Street. So what I do is I connect with people and organizations in the community, particularly churches and private schools, as I am in charge of our faith-based recruitment efforts, and I discuss the desperate need that we have in our state for licensed foster parents with our kids. So there are, like Connie said, or like David said, I believe, over 2,000 kids in care just in Milwaukee County alone. And we only have about 500 to 600 licensed foster families. So clearly it is a growing need. It's always a need. And that's why we have our recruitment team that comes out and talks to people about why we need our foster parents. So foster care, literally defined, is temporary care provided by licensed foster parents. This care gives families the time to make the necessary changes so that their child can safely return home to live with them. Our goal is always to reunify our children. About 71% of our kids are able to safely return home to their parents. The remaining children, like David said, we do need to find other forms of permanency, whether that's through transfer of guardianship with a fit and willing relative or through adoption. The reasons that our children are removed and then seen at our child advocacy centers do include physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and then neglect. Neglect is actually the #1 reason our children are removed from their homes. It can include chronic truancy, delayed medical care, inadequate supervision, or an unsafe physical environment. We have about 75 to 100 kids who come into our care every month. Again, there are over 7,000 kids in out-of-home care in Wisconsin. The scary part is that about 1/3 of them do come from just Milwaukee County. Our children do come from diverse backgrounds, and our children range in ages from only a couple days old, if they have to be removed from the hospital, up to 18 years old. These are the different licenses that we offer. We have 4 of them. We have a general foster care license, which is what everybody pictures foster care to be, temporary care provided outside of the home with the goal of reunifying that child with their parents. The licensing process does take about 120 days, and you do have to complete 3 pre-placement trainings before you can be licensed. And then there are 11 other trainings that are offered at various times. The training is all free, and you do have 2 years to complete those. We also license for adoption through foster care. This is commonly known as our dual license. Like I said, while 71% of our children do return home, there are instances where the parents have not made the changes necessary for that child to be able to safely live in the home, and then we do need to look for other forms of permanency through adoption. If you are licensed for adoption through general foster care, you can be that child's adoptive resource if necessary. The training process is almost identical, and the licensing process is also the same amount of time, about 120 days. We also offer treatment foster care licenses. These children who come into care under treatment foster care have mid to higher levels of medical challenges, physical challenges, or behavioral needs. This licensing process takes about 90 to 120 days, but the difference is you do need to complete all of your training before you can take placements of children. Last, we have our respite license. We lovingly refer to this as our part-time foster parent program. It's completely based on your availability. Instead of taking a long-term placement of a child, oftentimes our foster parents sometimes just need a break for a weekend, or sometimes they go on a business trip or somewhere where the foster kids are not able to come with them. And that's where our respite providers come in. So you are still licensed as a foster parent, but you can take care of kids for a weekend or a week here and there as needed based on your availability. Again, the licensing process takes 90 to 120 days. You do need to complete all of your training before you can be licensed. This slide kind of makes me laugh because we talk about a timeline for children in foster care, but there really is none. And I know nobody wants to hear that because unpredictability is uncomfortable. But our children do come into care. They are placed with either a relative or a foster family, and everything is very much case dependent and based on the court system. There is a law in place because we don't want our kids to be in foster care forever, and between 12 and 15 months, we are required to start making recommendations for permanency. If we feel that child's going to be able to return home in the near future, we recommend that. Otherwise, we do have to start making other plans for that child, whether it be transfer of guardianship or adoption. So we try to say that it could be about 12 to 15 months, but again, it's completely based on the court system. Guidelines. You must be at least 21 years old to be a foster parent. You can be married, you can be single, you can be in a partnership. We do run financial background checks. This is not to make sure that you have money to buy the kids' name brand clothing or anything like that. We need to make sure that your income does exceed your expenses. You can either rent a home, you can be a homeowner. We need just proof of insurance, vehicle liability insurance, employment verification. We will ask for references. We ask for usually about 5 references between both friends, family members, professional references. And then we ask that each member of the family does complete a health examination to make sure that you're physically capable of caring for a child. The training program. Like I said, all of our training is free. It's all offered through our Milwaukee Child Welfare Partnership, which is located at the Columbia St. Mary's building that you see down by the Bayshore Mall. You can see it from the freeway. If you do choose to be licensed as a treatment foster care parent, that training all takes place at our building on 76th Street. Again, they do offer the trainings at multiple days of the week. They offer them on weekends, in the mornings, in the evenings. We try to accommodate everyone's schedules. Children and trauma. All of our foster children have experienced some sort of trauma in their lives. Being removed from the home is a traumatic experience as it is. Trauma can affect children's brains, bodies, behavior, and ways of thinking. Ongoing trauma often disrupts children's sense of security, safety, and sense of themselves, and alters the way that they see and respond to people and situations. And I don't say this to scare anyone, but very often our children come into care and they are scared and they are mistrusting, and often it comes out in some sort of behaviors or pulling away from people. And we just don't want our foster parents to take that personally, and we don't want foster parents to think that that's just how it's going to be forever. Children may develop a lack of trust, aggression, hypersensitivity, anxiety, depression, difficulty concentrating, or emotional difficulties. Like we said, all of our children have experienced trauma. They often develop these things because it's their protective instincts to keep them safe while they're in the home and during whatever it was that caused them to be removed. These children, these behaviors are their natural reaction, but through a safe, stable, and consistent loving home and loving family, they will learn to trust again, and these behaviors and tendencies will be overcome. So how can you help? Consider opening your home to sibling groups. Like we said, it's traumatizing just to be removed from the home and from your parents. It's more traumatizing to be removed from your siblings as well. We understand not everybody has the space to accommodate sibling groups, but if possible, we ask that people open their minds to it. Having positive contact with the biological family. This is key. We understand that sometimes it can be scary or uncomfortable, and we just ask that everybody starts at their own comfort level with working with biological families, but it does make the experience for that child in foster care much easier. Understanding that it's going to take time. Like I said, these children have often endured trauma for a very extended period of time. It's not going to change overnight, and they're not going to learn to trust people overnight, but over time they will. Incorporating therapeutic services. Most of our children do receive some sort of therapy. Each child has their own family case manager that will help you set up those services for that child. Understanding their triggers. Oftentimes certain things that the child will endure or has endured, there will be certain things that will remind them of that, and it will set them off. We call these triggers. Once you learn to understand their triggers, you can help them avoid them, and then it's much easier to avoid any of these behaviors and tendencies. And then establishing routines and keeping a child informed of changes. Children thrive on consistency, and if you help them set up a consistent schedule, they're going to be able to adjust much easier. Child and family benefits. We understand it does cost money to raise a child. Each child receives their own monthly stipend, which will come to you. It is based on their age range as well as their level of need. Children may be eligible for adoption assistance depending on their level of need. Each child is under either Title 19 or Medicaid. They do receive health insurance. They all are under our Children's Hospital Community Health Plan. And then if you are a single parent household and you work, or if you are a 2-parent household and both parents work, you are eligible to receive daycare assistance. And our children 5 years and younger are eligible for WIC, so help with baby formula, rice cereal, stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Support. We also don't expect you to do this by yourselves. It is hard. So we give you an entire team of professionals to help you. When you are licensed, you will receive a licensing specialist. They are the person that will go through all of the licensing process with you. And then after that, they will remain your licensing worker for the entire time that you are a foster parent. They are your go-to. You can ask them any questions. No question is considered silly or dumb. FCM, this is an acronym you'll end up seeing a lot. It does stand for the Family Case Manager. Like I said, each child has their own Family Case Manager. They are also good for asking questions about the child's behaviors. They are very busy, so I always recommend trying your licensing worker first. We have a foster parent liaison. Her name is Paulette. She is wonderful. She's fostered like 50 kids with us, so we finally hired her on. She is a great go-to person. I have heard from foster parents say, I've called her at 3 in the morning and she answered my call, and I'm like, what are you doing at 3 in the morning that you're answering your phone? But she's great with working with foster parents. And then other professionals as well. I always encourage people to talk to the child's teachers. Oftentimes, that teacher has known that child even longer than you have, and they'll have some insight on how to help them. Talk to their therapist, talk to their doctors. Robin's Nest is also an amazing support, but I'm not going to go into that because that's where Lona's going to come in. We have a Facebook group for all of the foster parents in our county, and it's called Connecting Bridges. That is also an amazing resource. Once you are licensed, you can become a part of it. I am actually a member, and I've seen people post in the middle of the night, I just got an emergency placement and I need a car seat or a stroller, and people are answering right then and there saying, I have one, I'll bring it over to you right now. And then other support groups. And then we do offer some discounts for our foster parents. You get free admission to the Betty Bryn Museum. Shoe Carnival does a couple discounts throughout the year. And then we also try to host events. We have a holiday movie event that we invite our foster families to. It's actually coming up just next weekend. We do a foster parent appreciation night every year, which is great. So how can you help if you aren't a foster parent? We understand that not everybody is in a position that they're able to be licensed right now or would like to be licensed right now. But there are still ways that people can help regardless. Preach about it. Like I said, I come to churches and I give presentations. The fact that you guys have had us here is wonderful, and we love being able to have the opportunity to come and speak to groups about what we do. Host an informational meeting, and I have also gone out to the community and I've hosted very similar trainings like this for people who are interested in learning. Dedicate foster parents at your church. Oftentimes you see baby dedications in church for biological families, and without bringing the child up front, because that's scary for kids, and also confidentiality, but being able to dedicate your foster parents and just recognize them and acknowledge them and say, we know and appreciate what you're doing. Organize service teams, host a date night for foster families in your area, honor your local social workers, throw a party or have your own event for foster families, serving at a local child welfare office, which again Lona will cover in a little bit, assembling care packages, and just praying for our foster families. On the back table, I put together a bunch of folders. Please help yourselves to a folder. It does have some more of our flyers. It does have a prayer card in there. It's got a Bible verse on it, just to remember our foster families are going through a lot, and so are our foster children. There is also a sign-up sheet in the back if you want to just put down your name or an email address or mailing address. If you are interested in more information, I can go ahead and I'll send you information this week just about our foster care program. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lona now.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Lona Long Velasco, and I am the Community Resource Specialist at Community Services. You've learned a lot about our programs. I'm here to talk to you about ways you can help in the immediate sense. So Sarah touched on the Robin's Nest. What it is a basic needs repository for anyone that is identified with unmet needs within the children's hospital system. The Robin's Nest is rooted in the needs of children in foster care, It was one single social worker by the name of Robin who saw the need in the community and advocated within the office for workers to bring in gently used clothing. And that's how it started, really. Grew into a room, and now it's in a warehouse. So you'll see that warehouse in a second. But I like to tell a little bit about how it got started. And now it really does branch out throughout our continuum of care. Our hospital social workers utilize it, our Project Ujima, and some of our prevention programs, our health system, and primarily our family support and also our family case management team. With that, let's see here.
St. A2.
Yes, St. A2. Thank you for talking about that. We do offer it, and I'll talk about it in the slides. We do offer the Robin's Nest to the Division of Child Protective Services for prevention purposes. If it's deemed that they need basic needs, then they can come to the Robin's Nest. We'd rather do that than remove children from their homes. Mm-hmm. And also our partnership is extended to St. A. That way we can serve all the children that are in foster care. So we're really proud of that. Just the arrow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, right here. Thank you. No, Sarah.
So we do a lot of great work in the community. You can see we're not technologically savvy.
No kidding.
There's the Robin's Nest.
But it is my
I like to talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs because we really do believe that if you don't have your basic needs met, it's very difficult to handle the more challenging problems that come into our lives. And so our families get to come use the Robin's Nest if they're homeless or if they're looking for a job and they don't have the professional clothing that they need. All of those things are there for them to take free and without limitation. Here's the inside of the Robin's Nest. I am very happy to oversee the operations because I get to work with a lot of volunteers in the community. Faith-based groups come. Miss Wisconsin and her team, they were there recently and that was very exciting. Corporations come. A lot of people in the community help us in ways that are just amazing, and I love partnering with the community. So I like to talk about the statistics as well. Our usage statistics for 2017 show that the Robin's Nest served 2,188 children and 618 adults. I'm doing the statistics for this year, and it has risen exponentially. So I'll have those done by the first of the year, and I'm curious to see what the numbers will unfold. I am here to say that it's really important that we partner together to take care of these children and families. They are some of the most vulnerable. I get to see some of the families that are so in dire need, but when they come to the Robin's Nest, they feel so cared for and appreciated and loved. And that's what we get to do. And it's just one little resource within the children's hospital system, but it's a really important one that can meet people where they're at and get their immediate needs met. Last week I got a call from a worker. She's like, do you know of any clothing resources? I know you're probably leaving work right now, but one of my parents just told me she's starting a new job on Monday and she doesn't have any professional clothing. I said, give me her number. I'll wait for her. And that lady came within a half an hour and she was so happy. She said, I've never worked at a job that requires me to dress professionally. I've only been in jeans. And she went out of there with some beautiful outfits. And that's all donated from our community, and we really appreciate you for that. So any way we can partner, I love to discuss that. You'll see that the information packets have my phone number, and you can call if you're interested in doing any one of these volunteer opportunities. You can come and help me sort and organize within the Robin's Nest. You can do clothing drives. Right now we're in desperate need of coats, mittens, hats, gloves. We also do 2 clothing giveaways. I do one in the spring and one in the fall, and those are very well attended, and people very much appreciate that. And there's one of our little happy customers. And with that, I'll turn it back to Sarah.
Where is the Robin's Nest?
The Robin's Nest is located right behind our office building at 620 South 76, so it's in the back of the building in the parking lot.
Hi again. Isn't she wonderful? She's always so busy in the office with the Robin's Nest. So this is just a few other ways that you guys can connect with us, that you can find out some more information about what we do and how we serve. Our Kid Hero blog, if you're looking for a happy cry, please read it. It's so wonderful. It's written by our foster parents. There's typically a new article or blog post every month. And you can find it just by going to the CHW website, or just search kidhero.chw.org. We do have a YouTube channel. Paulette, the liaison that I told you about, does have a video up there. It's about a 30-minute video. It explains all about our licensing process. Our CHW website, if you are interested in finding more foster care information at the CHW website, when you go to chw.org, in the upper right-hand corner, there is a tab that says Children's in the Community, and that's going to take you to our foster care information. And then also, we do have a Facebook site. There is the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, which is the main campus. And then there's Children's Hospital of Wisconsin Community Services. We post things on there. We just had our National Adoption Day celebration on Friday. We have information about that. So I highly recommend taking a look. And then again, just want to thank you for having us today. Please feel free to take a folder in the back. Like I said, it's got my contact information, it is Lona's contact information, as well as just some more suggestions and ways that we can all come together to support our kids in foster care as well as our foster parents. Does anybody have any questions? No? Well, thank you so much for having us. It was wonderful to be here.
Thank you.